Hello, YouTubers, Substackers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shills, debt slaves, serfs, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And today I want to talk about liberal policies that are destroying the working class. They're destroying the working class all across the country, but notably in New York City, California, and here where I live in Seattle. And one of the things that happened recently was in Seattle, and I'm sure this is the same model in California and New York. They mandated that all Uber drivers and DoorDash drivers and the like would be paid a minimum of $26 an hour, and then of course all the goodies that go along with it, the tips and fees and taxes and everything else. And so they added a $5 fee to every order from Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, and the like. And it's completely crushed the business model. It was a good business model. I used it quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but I used it quite often and ordered food from great restaurants all over town. And it was a good service and it was a good business model. And initially, it attracted a lot of college students that could make a lot of money quickly. And the entire business model is collapsing. And in Seattle, for example, deliveries have crashed 45%. So half of all these delivery services business crashed 50%. And I can speak from my personal experience. I don't order anything from any of those delivery services anymore. You know, to pay $30 or $35 for a burger, fries, and a Coke, or even more if you want to get Indian food or something a little more luxurious. It's just out of the question because on top of everything else, first of all, you have the food, which has risen because of inflation, and then you have increased labor costs for these restaurants that gets passed on. In Washington, we have, I think, a 4% sales tax added to all these orders, and then you're supposed to tip too. And of course, we live in this age when tipping a mere 5, 10, 15% is considered chump change. So they want 20% tips on top of that. So it's really ridiculous. So the idea is that they're giving higher wages out, but there's fewer orders, and so the whole model just doesn't make sense. And we see this happening in Seattle and New York, and then in California, of course, we have this mandate by Gavin Newsom that all fast food workers would make a minimum wage of $20. And so those used to be entry-level jobs for young people, and now the people that work in fast food restaurants here, California, New York, all across the country, are elderly people and people that have second jobs and a lot of migrants, and it's just really a mishmash. You hardly ever see any young people working in those places anymore. And in New York, Uber cut 25% off of their drivers. They cut 25% of their drivers for Uber because they just don't have the business. In California, as I just mentioned, they raised the wage. It's good intentioned, I guess, but 10,000 people have been laid off from fast food jobs in California now, and a lot of places are closing. They just can't keep up. And one of the other factors that goes into this, where everybody loses, the people that have these driver jobs lose, the restaurants lose business, people like me lose a service that they once enjoyed, and now we have longer wait times, and the food gets here cold. I know for a fact that 5 years ago, when I used to order from DoorDash, somebody would show up, and the food would still be hot, and the service would be great, and they'd get there pretty quick. And now all the drivers the last couple times I ordered, like a year ago, were migrants that didn't speak any English. A lot of them had temper problems. They'd always arrive late. They wouldn't be able to even use GPS to find where I lived. It's just a total disaster. And then on top of that, there's a huge loss of taxes, to Seattle, huge loss of taxes to New York City, and a huge loss of taxes for California. For what seems to be sound policy. I realize the intention is to, uplift people and give them a living wage, and that's a very noble thing. But none of this stuff is thought out. And it reminds me of classical economists. Bastiat, for example, said, you have to see the seen and the unseen. And this is a good example of that. The seen is, what's touted as a good policy to create living wages for the working class. But the unseen is exactly what we're seeing, a complete crushing of restaurants, a complete crushing of the delivery driver business, and the whole chain just collapses. And another classical economist, Hazlitt, talked about the fact that they think about the benefactors, but not the losers. Of course, the benefactors are the few drivers that are allowed to or manage to keep their jobs. But the losers are everybody else. The losers are the restaurants. The losers are the customers. The losers are the potential drivers that might work for those companies. So, exactly, the big picture is, once again, the mediocrity of our leadership. They really don't understand economic concepts. They don't understand small businesses. They don't understand the results of these disastrous actions. And unfortunately, well, definitely we see this in conservative legislation as well, but we overwhelmingly have seen, particularly the last 4 years and the last 10 years, these completely misguided liberal policies that, for right now, are literally crushing small businesses and working class people, certainly in New York City, certainly in Seattle, certainly in California, and I guarantee in every state of the union that implements these kind of disastrous, unthought out policies. Truly a world gone mad. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.